Nagasaki, Japan, December 1944. The glass vial felt cold against Tsutomu Yamaguchi's palm. Inside, the clear liquid caught the dim light of the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Enough cyanide to kill a family of 3, maybe 4, if diluted properly. His wife, Hisako, sat across the small table, nursing their infant son Katsutoshi. The baby's soft coos filled the silence between them. Outside, air raid sirens wailed their nightly warning. American B-29s were coming again. "You're thinking about it again," Hisako said quietly, not looking up from their son. Tsutomu didn't deny it. What was the point? She knew him too well. 6 years of marriage had made them experts in each other's silences. "The war's lost," he said, placing the vial on the table between them. "You know this. Everyone knows this. It's just a matter of time before they invade. So we wait. We survive, like everyone else. And when the Americans come, when they—" He stopped, unable to say the words. The stories from Okinawa were too terrible. Women and children jumping off cliffs rather than face capture. The shame, the dishonor. Hisako finally looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, whether from tears or exhaustion, he couldn't tell. "You would rather we die by your hand than theirs? I would rather we die with dignity. As a family. Together." His voice cracked on the last word. Katsutoshi chose that moment to cry. A small, pitiful sound that pierced straight through Tsutomu's heart. His son, just 4 months old, would never learn to walk, never go to school, never have a life of his own, because his father was contemplating murder. "Put it away," Hisako whispered, clutching their son tighter. "Please, put it away." Tsutomu took the vial and walked to the small cabinet in the corner. He placed it on the top shelf, behind the rice bowls. Not thrown away, not destroyed, just waiting, like everything else in Japan at the end of 1944. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Shipyard, Nagasaki, January 1945. The smell of welding metal and machine oil was home to Tsutomu, more home than the cramped apartment where his family lived. Here, at least, he could create something, build something, make something useful in a world that was falling apart. He stood before the massive hull of a tanker, or what would become a tanker if they ever got enough steel to finish it. The war had drained everything. Steel went to warships, food went to soldiers. What was left went to keeping the dying empire alive for one more day. "Yamaguchi-san," a voice called from across the shipyard floor. He turned to see his supervisor, Sato-san, a stocky man in his 50s with perpetually oil-stained hands. "Yes, sir?" "You're being reassigned, temporarily. 3 months in Hiroshima." Sato handed him a document with the Mitsubishi seal. Tsutomu's heart sank. 3 months. Away from Hisako. Away from Katsutoshi. But one didn't refuse assignments, not in wartime Japan, not when every able body was needed. "When do I leave?" "June. They need engineers for the shipbuilding facility there. Design work mostly. Your specialty." Design work. That meant he wouldn't be building ships that would be sunk by American submarines within weeks of launch. Small mercy. "I understand," Tsutomu said, bowing. "I will serve." That night, he held Katsutoshi longer than usual. The baby's tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb with surprising strength. A fighter, this one. He would need to be. 3 months isn't forever, Hisako said, though her voice betrayed her worry. "You'll be home before the cherry blossoms fall again." Tsutomu nodded, but said nothing. In the summer of 1945, no one could promise tomorrow, let alone 3 months. Hiroshima, Japan, August 5th, 1945, 7:00 p.m. The sun set over Hiroshima in shades of orange and purple, painting the 7 rivers that wound through the city in colors of fire. Beautiful, Tsutomu thought, even as the city prepared for another potential air raid. He had been in Hiroshima for exactly 2 months and 28 days. Tomorrow, he would board the train home. The assignment was complete, the designs finished, everything approved. His 2 colleagues, Akira and Satoshi, sat with him in their shared boarding house room, drinking weak tea and playing cards. "Finally going home, lucky bastard," Akira said, laying down a card with more force than necessary. "Give your wife a kiss from me." "Touch my wife and I'll kill you," Tsutomu replied without heat. It was an old joke between them. Satoshi was quieter, more thoughtful. Do you think it will end soon? The war. The room fell silent. This was the question everyone asked, but no one could answer. The Americans had taken Okinawa. The Soviets were pushing from the north. Germany had surrendered months ago. But Japan fought on, because that's what Japan did. Fought until there was nothing left to fight with. Yes, Tsutomu said finally. One way or another, it will end soon. And then what? Satoshi asked. What does a defeated Japan look like? No one had an answer for that either. That night, Tsutomu wrote a letter to Hisako. He told her about the sunset, about the rivers, about how he missed the smell of their son's hair and the sound of her laugh. He told her he would be home tomorrow. He sealed the letter and left it on his desk to mail in the morning. He never sent it. The morning was unreasonably hot. Tsutomu wiped sweat from his forehead as he walked toward the Mitsubishi shipyard for the last time. Just needed to pick up his final documents, his work clearance papers, and he could go home. The streets of Hiroshima were already busy. Women in simple work clothes heading to factories, children laughing as they ran to school, old men sweeping the streets, normal life or what passed for normal in the 7th year of war. Tsutomu checked his watch, 8:10 a.m. The train left at 9:30. Plenty of time. He was halfway to the shipyard when he realized he'd forgotten his worker identification pass at the boarding house. Cursing himself for the carelessness, he turned around and headed back. This decision would save his life. And curse it forever. 8:14 a.m. He was walking through a potato field, a shortcut back to the boarding house, when he heard it. The sound of aircraft engines, high altitude, Americans. He looked up, squinting against the sun. One plane, a B-29 Superfortress. But no formation, no bomber group, just one plane. Strange. Then he saw them. 2 objects falling from the bomb bay. Parachutes deployed, some kind of monitoring equipment probably. The Americans had been dropping weather instruments and propaganda leaflets for weeks. Tsutomu was about to look away when the sky turned white. Not bright, not blinding. White, pure, absolute, total white. There was no sound. That was the first impossible thing Tsutomu's brain tried to process. An explosion this large should have sound, should have been deafening, but there was nothing, just white. Then the heat came. Not hot, not burning, heat, the concept of heat, the platonic ideal of heat, a wall of temperature so extreme it transcended sensation and became something else entirely, something alien. Tsutomu was thrown backwards through the air. He didn't remember leaving the ground, didn't remember flying. But suddenly, he was on his back in the potato field, staring up at a sky that had turned black. The white was gone. In its place, a roiling column of fire and smoke rising impossibly high, higher than any building, higher than mountains, rising and spreading and forming into a shape that would become iconic, though Tsutomu didn't know that yet. A mushroom. The sound arrived then, not from the explosion that had already happened, but from everything else. Buildings collapsing, glass shattering, steel twisting, fire roaring, people screaming, so much screaming. Tsutomu tried to sit up and realized he couldn't move his left arm. He looked down. The entire left side of his body was red and blistered. His shirt had fused to his skin. He could smell burning hair, his own. "Get up," he told himself. "Get up, get up, get up!" His body refused to listen. Above him, the mushroom cloud continued to rise, 7 miles high, 8, 9, blotting out the sun, turning day into twilight. In the distance, where Hiroshima had been, there was nothing but fire. Tsutomu didn't know how long he lay in the potato field. Minutes, hours. Time had stopped making sense when the world turned white. Eventually, survival instinct overpowered shock. He rolled onto his right side, his good side, and pushed himself to his knees. The pain was extraordinary. Burns covered his left arm, left leg, the left side of his face. His eardrums had burst. Blood trickled from his nose. But he was alive. He stood and immediately wished he hadn't. The city was gone, not damaged, not destroyed, gone. Where buildings had stood, there were shadows on the ground. Where streets had been, there were rivers of fire. Where people had lived, there were shapes. Things that might have been human once, but weren't anymore. And the ones still moving were worse. They walked toward him like ghosts, dozens of them, hundreds. Their clothes burned away, their skin hanging in sheets, their arms outstretched, reaching for something, help, water, mercy that Tsutomu couldn't give them. Water, they moaned. Please, water. Tsutomu stumbled backward. His mind rejected what his eyes were showing him. This couldn't be real. This was hell. This was the Buddhist hell his grandmother had warned him about as a child, the hell reserved for the worst sinners. But this was Hiroshima, and he was in it. "Akira," he shouted, his voice hoarse. "Satoshi." His colleagues had been at the shipyard, closer to the explosion, much closer. He had to find them, had to know if they were alive. Tsutomu began walking toward what had been the center of the city. Every step was agony. The burns pulled and cracked, blood seeped through his clothes, but he kept walking. Around him, the dead and dying created a landscape of horror. A woman sat cradling a charred bundle that might have been a child. A man wandered in circles, calling a name over and over. A group of schoolchildren lay in a perfect line, burned to death at their desks. "One bomb," Tsutomu whispered to himself. "One bomb did this?" It was impossible. No bomb could do this, not even the massive blockbusters the Americans had been dropping on Tokyo. This was something else, something new, something that had just changed warfare forever. Tsutomu found them near what had been the shipyard, or rather, near the crater where the shipyard had been. Akira and Satoshi were alive, though barely. Akira had been outside when the bomb fell, like Tsutomu. Burns covered his back and legs. His hair had been singed away, but he could walk. Satoshi had been inside a concrete building. The structure had partially collapsed on him, but the walls had shielded him from the initial heat. He had cuts and bruises, possible broken ribs, but no burns. "What? What was that?" Satoshi asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "A bomb," Tsutomu said. "One bomb. That's impossible. Look around. Does this look impossible?" They were hiding in what remained of an air raid shelter, a concrete hole in the ground that had somehow survived. Around them, the city continued to burn. The fires had merged into a single firestorm, creating winds strong enough to knock a man down. "We need to leave," Akira said. "This whole city is going to burn." "Leave and go where?" Satoshi asked. "The roads are gone. The trains are gone. Everything is gone." "We walk," Tsutomu said. He thought of Hisako, of Katsutoshi. They were in Nagasaki, safe, far from this hell. He had to get home to them, had to make sure they were safe, had to warn them that the Americans had a weapon that could destroy a city with a single bomb. "The train station," Tsutomu said. "Some trains might still be running, if we can get there." "That's 3 kilometers, Akira interrupted. "Through that." He gestured at the inferno outside. "Then we die here," Tsutomu said flatly. "Or we try. Choose." They chose to try. The journey to the train station took 6 hours. It should have taken 40 minutes. They moved through a city that no longer existed, past people who were alive but would be dead by nightfall. The radiation was already killing them, though none of them knew what radiation was yet. A woman stopped them, clutching Tsutomu's arm with burned hands. "Have you seen my daughter? She's 7. She was wearing a blue dress." Tsutomu looked at her face. She was blind. Her eyes had melted in the heat. "No," he lied gently, "but I'm sure she's looking for you too." The woman nodded and wandered off, calling a name into the smoke. They passed a fire station where firemen had been flash burned in the act of sliding down their pole. The metal had acted like a conductor for the heat, cooking them from the inside. They passed a bank where the stone steps had shadows burned into them, the outlines of people who had been sitting there when the bomb fell. The people were gone, vaporized. Only their shadows remained. "I don't understand," Satoshi kept saying. "I don't understand how one bomb could do this." None of them understood. Understanding would come later, along with new words: atomic, fission, Hiroshima. By late afternoon, they reached the train station, or what was left of it. The platforms were rubble, the tracks were twisted, but in the distance, incredibly, they could hear a train whistle. "They're still running," Akira said in disbelief. "They're actually still running trains." Of course they were. This was Japan. The trains ran on time even during the apocalypse. The train to Nagasaki left at 6 p.m. on August 6, 1945. It was packed with survivors, all heading south, away from the dying city. Tsutomu found a spot in a cargo car, leaning against wooden crates that smelled of fish. His burns had stopped bleeding, but started oozing clear fluid. Infection was setting in. He could feel the fever building behind his eyes. Akira sat beside him, his own burns weeping through makeshift bandages. Satoshi stood by the door, staring out at the darkening landscape. "Do you think Tokyo knows?" Satoshi asked. "About what happened?" "Tokyo will know by morning," Tsutomu said. "The whole world will know." "And then what? Do we surrender?" It was treason to even suggest surrender, but after what they'd seen, words like treason seemed meaningless. "I don't know," Tsutomu admitted. "I just want to get home." The train journey took 15 hours. Every kilometer away from Hiroshima felt like emerging from a nightmare. But Tsutomu couldn't escape the images. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flash, the mushroom cloud, the walking dead. By dawn on August 7th, his fever had spiked. He was delirious, muttering about white light and shadows on walls. Akira tried to keep him cool with wet cloths, but there was little water and no medicine. "Stay with us," Akira kept saying. "We're almost there. Stay with us." Tsutomu wanted to stay, but the fever pulled him down into darkness, where dreams and memories mixed into surreal horror shows. When he woke, it was August 8th. The train was pulling into Nagasaki station. He was home. Hisako screamed when she saw him. Tsutomu stood in the doorway of their small apartment, more corpse than man. The left side of his face was a mass of blisters. His arm hung uselessly at his side. His clothes were rags, stained with blood and ash. "Tsutomu," she gasped, rushing to him. "What happened? What?" "Hiroshima," he croaked. His throat was raw from smoke and screaming. "A bomb! One bomb destroyed the whole city." She helped him inside, gently, as if he might shatter at any touch. Katsutoshi was sleeping in his crib, oblivious to his father's return. "I need to see a doctor," Tsutomu said. "These burns." "I'll get help. Just rest. Please, rest." But Tsutomu couldn't rest. The images wouldn't stop. Every time he closed his eyes, he was back in the potato field, watching the city die. "One bomb," he kept repeating. "How can one bomb destroy an entire city?" Hisako had no answer. She just held him, careful not to touch the burns, and wept. A doctor came that evening, an old man who had seen the Russo-Japanese War and thought he'd seen everything. He took one look at Tsutomu's burns and shook his head. "This is beyond my skill," he admitted. "You need a hospital, proper treatment." "Will I die?" Tsutomu asked directly. The doctor hesitated. "I don't know. These burns are severe. If infection sets in..." He trailed off. "I understand." After the doctor left, Tsutomu held his son for the first time in 3 months. Katsutoshi had grown, gained weight, developed a personality. He stared at his father with large, curious eyes, then reached for his face. "Don't," Hisako said quickly. His burns, but Katsutoshi's tiny hand touched Tsutomu's cheek, in one of the few places that wasn't burned. The baby smiled. Tsutomu started to cry, not from pain, from relief. He was home. His family was safe. Whatever happened now, at least he had this moment. "I won't leave you again," he promised. "No matter what, I won't leave." It was a promise he would keep, but not in the way he intended. Tsutomu woke on August 9th with a fever of 104 degrees. His burns had developed infections overnight. The clear fluid had turned yellow-green. The blisters had burst, leaving raw, weeping wounds. Hisako wanted him to stay in bed. The doctor had ordered rest, but Tsutomu had never missed a day of work in his life. Japanese discipline ran deeper than pain. "I have to report to Mitsubishi," he said, struggling to dress. "They need to know what happened, need to know about the weapon." "You can barely stand." "I can stand, I can walk, I can work." Each statement was a lie, but he told them anyway. The walk to the Mitsubishi office took 30 minutes instead of the usual 10. Every step was agony. His vision swam. His left arm was completely useless, hanging like dead meat. But he made it. The office was buzzing with activity. News of Hiroshima had reached Nagasaki, though details were scarce. The government was calling it a new type of bomb. They were urging calm, business as usual. Tsutomu's supervisor, Sato-san, was shocked to see him. "Yamaguchi-san, you should be in hospital." I need to make a report, Tsutomu said, about Hiroshima, about what I saw. Later. First, you need medical now, Tsutomu interrupted, something he'd never done before. Sir, please, this is important. Sato-san saw something in Tsutomu's eyes, desperation, urgency, trauma, and relented. Very well, conference room, 5 minutes. The conference room had windows facing northeast toward the harbor. Tsutomu stood at the head of the table, wrapped in bandages, looking like a mummy from a horror film. 3 executives sat before him, including Sato-san. They looked skeptical. 1 bomb destroying an entire city? Preposterous. The explosion occurred at approximately 8:15 a.m. on August 6th, Tsutomu began. His voice was steady despite the fever. I was approximately 3 kilometers from the hypocenter. The what? One executive interrupted. The center of the blast, ground zero, where the bomb detonated. Tsutomu wasn't sure where these terms were coming from. They felt right, though. Continue, Sato-san said. There was a flash of light, brighter than anything I've ever seen. Then heat, extreme heat. It stripped the skin from people kilometers away. Then the shockwave. And then, he paused, struggling to find words adequate to describe it. Then everything was gone. The executives exchanged glances. Yamaguchi-san, one of them said gently, as if speaking to a child, you've been through a terrible ordeal. Perhaps you're confused. Perhaps you saw multiple bombs and thought, 1 bomb, Tsutomu insisted, his voice rising. I watched it fall from a single plane. I saw it detonate. 1 bomb destroyed the entire city. That's physically impossible, another executive said. No explosive device could. I was there. I saw 11:02 a.m. The northeast windows turned white, 11:02 a.m., August 9th, 1945. The conference room windows exploded inward as the second atomic bomb, Fat Man, detonated over Nagasaki. Tsutomu, still under the table from his desperate dive, felt the building shake, heard the roar, saw the familiar white light bleeding through every crack and window. Not again. Please God, not again. But God wasn't listening. Or perhaps he was listening too well, because once again, impossibly, Tsutomu survived. When the shaking stopped, he crawled out. The executive who'd been standing by the window was dead, shredded by glass. Another was unconscious. Sato-san stood frozen, staring at the mushroom cloud rising over the city. The same cloud, the same shape, the same nightmare 3 days later. I told you, Tsutomu whispered, though his voice held no triumph, only horror. I told you 1 bomb could destroy everything. Sato-san turned to him with wild eyes. My family, they're in the city center. He didn't finish. They both knew what city center meant now. Tsutomu stumbled out of the building. His burns from Hiroshima had torn open in the blast. Blood soaked through his bandages. His twice ruptured eardrums screamed with pain. But none of that mattered. Hisako, Katsutoshi, his family. He started running through the burning streets of his hometown, through the second atomic apocalypse in 4 days, and wondered if this was his punishment for surviving the first. The apartment was still standing, a miracle among ruins. Hisako emerged from under the kitchen table, clutching their son, both covered in dust but alive. I remembered what you said about Hiroshima, she gasped. When I heard the plane, I hid. Tsutomu pulled them close, ignoring his screaming burns. It happened again, the same bomb, the same... His voice broke. They huddled inside as Nagasaki burned. An hour later it began to rain. Black rain, thick, oily, radioactive fallout that killed grass where it touched and burned exposed skin. Don't go outside, Tsutomu commanded. Don't touch the rain. Don't drink any water from outside. Some instinct warned him this rain carried death. But Hisako had already been outside that morning, searching for water in the chaos after the blast. The black rain had touched her skin, soaked her clothes. That night, as Japan's surrender crackled over the radio 6 days later, Tsutomu made a decision. He would never tell anyone he'd survived both bombs. Who would believe him? And if they did, what then? Become a curiosity? A freak of nature? A living reminder of humanity's worst achievement? No. Better to disappear into the mass of survivors, to be ordinary, to pretend that lightning or atomic fire hadn't struck him twice. Will you tell people, Hisako asked weakly, about being in both cities? No, he said. Let the dead rest. Let the living forget. It was the first of many lies he would tell, the longest lie of his life. The decades passed like a slow-motion nightmare. Tsutomu received his Hibakusha certificate in 1957, officially recognized as a Nagasaki survivor. The clerk noted his older burns, the Hiroshima scars. Work accident, Tsutomu lied smoothly. The clerk accepted it. He worked, raised children, 3 total, 2 daughters after Katsutoshi, built a normal life. But normal was an illusion. Hisako grew sicker each year. The black rain exposure manifested as kidney failure, liver damage, chronic pain. She never complained, but Tsutomu saw her wasting away. Katsutoshi, exposed to radiation twice before his first birthday, never thrived. Small for his age, sickly. At 30, doctors told him he couldn't have children, genetic damage, possibly hereditary. I'm the end of the line, father, Katsutoshi said bitterly. The radiation stops with me. In March 2005, Katsutoshi died. Cancer. He was 58. Tsutomu stood at his son's funeral, 89 years old, and realized he'd run out of reasons to stay silent. His son was dead. His wife was dying. He'd survived 2 atomic bombs only to watch radiation kill his family slowly, over decades. What was the point of surviving if he didn't tell the truth? That night, he made a decision that would define his final years. He would speak. The documentary filmmaker was skeptical at first. You survived both bombs? Tsutomu showed him the evidence. Medical records from Hiroshima, August 6th. Records from Nagasaki, August 9th. Testimony from Akira and Satoshi, his colleagues who'd survived Hiroshima with him, the scars that covered his body. Why now? The filmmaker asked. Why wait 60 years? Because my son is dead, Tsutomu said simply. Because I'm 90 years old and running out of time. Because someone needs to say that nuclear weapons are not abstract, they're real. They destroy real people, real families, real futures. And you're the only person who can say they experienced that twice. Exactly. I'm the only one. The documentary Niju Hibaku, Twice Bombed, premiered in 2006 and changed everything. News organizations worldwide wanted to interview the man who'd survived both atomic bombs. In March 2009, the Japanese government officially recognized him as a survivor of both bombings. He became the only officially certified Niju Hibakusha in history. He was 93 years old, 64 years too late. But recognition brought opportunity to speak. He gave speeches at schools, peace conferences, the United Nations. His message never changed. I am the only person who experienced atomic bombs twice, and I tell you, no one should ever experience this again. His daughter Toshiko accompanied him. Hisako had died in 2008, liver and kidney cancer after 63 years of radiation damage. Mother would be proud, Toshiko said after one speech. Your mother wanted me to speak decades ago, Tsutomu admitted. She knew I was hiding. She never said it, but she knew. In November 2009, doctors told him he had stomach cancer. Terminal. Weeks, maybe months. I have work to finish, he told Toshiko. Speeches, interviews, a memoir. You need to rest. I'll rest when I'm dead. Tsutomu Yamaguchi died on January 4th, 2010, at 6:30 a.m. He was 93 years old. His daughter Toshiko held his hand. Around his bed were photographs, Hisako, Katsutoshi, his other children, his grandchildren, a full life, despite everything. In his final hours, he dreamed, not of bombs or fire or mushroom clouds. He dreamed of the Oda River in Hiroshima before the war, when children played on its banks. He dreamed of Hisako's laugh, Katsutoshi's first steps, ordinary moments the bombs hadn't destroyed. I'm not afraid, he whispered to Toshiko, surprising himself. I thought I would be, but I'm not. Of course not. You're the bravest person I know. Not brave, just tired. So tired. He closed his eyes. Behind his eyelids, he saw them, the hundreds of thousands who died in the flashes, in the fires, in the decades after, the shadows on walls, the walking dead crying for water, and he saw the survivors, the Hibakusha, the ones who'd carried scars and shame and sickness, the ones who'd built lives from ashes. I tried, he whispered. I'm sorry it took so long, but I tried. I told them. I made them listen. At 6:30 a.m., his heart stopped. The last beats of the only heart to survive both atomic bombs. Epilogue. The obituaries ran worldwide. The New York Times called him a living bridge between war's horror and its lessons. Nagasaki's mayor said, "We have lost one of the most valuable witnesses of the atomic bomb experience." His memoir became a bestseller in Japan. Peace activists held vigils. Schoolchildren wrote essays about his life. In 2024, the Hibakusha collectively won the Nobel Peace Prize for their decades of anti-nuclear activism, a recognition of the movement Tsutomu had joined in his final years. But as of 2025, fewer than 100,000 Hibakusha remain alive. The last witnesses are fading, and around the world, approximately 12,500 nuclear warheads remain. Waiting. Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived 2 atomic bombs and lived 93 years. He watched his son die and his wife waste away. He carried guilt and silence for 6 decades before finding the courage to speak. His final words from an interview in 2009. "The only person who has the right to use nuclear weapons is someone who has been hit by them, and I tell you, they must never be used again." He spoke. The world listened. But the bombs remain. Because humanity's greatest curse isn't creating weapons we can't control. It's creating them knowing exactly what they do and building them anyway. This story is based on the true life of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, 1916-2010, the only person officially recognized by Japan as surviving both atomic bombings. All major facts are accurate. He was in Hiroshima August 6th, survived, returned to Nagasaki, survived the second bomb August 9th. His wife died in 2008 from radiation-related cancer. His son died at 58 from cancer. Yamaguchi remained silent for 60 years, finally speaking out in 2005. He died January 4th, 2010, of stomach cancer. The dialogue is fictionalized, but the events and their consequences are real. His message echoes still. No more Hiroshima. No more Nagasaki. No more Hibakusha. The end.